this is actually a roleplay video for a class assignment and it is not a real counseling session. Well, Jasmine, I am so glad to see you again. I know over the past couple of sessions we've talked about goals and kind of where you are and where you want to be. So I know we came up with some exercises and some different strategies to reach those goals. And how would you say those goals were, or striving for those goals were in that last week before?
Yeah, I would say like this past week since I've been working on them, I think that it's been a little bit hard to stay motivated to keep journaling. I think that was one of the things that we were like gonna focus on, so I can like really keep up with what brings me purpose and stuff like that. So I think that it's been a little bit hard to stay motivated to do that, but when I actually sit down and do it, it comes a lot easier than I would anticipate.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. And I know with that journaling, as kind of the mode to get to your goal, we talked about finding purpose, and we're looking for a job and how can we find purpose and just journaling. And how many times were you able to journal this past week?
Probably 4 times, I think. Yeah.
Wow, that's really great. And when you were journaling, what was kind of the things come into mind?
Yeah, so some of the things that came to mind, as far as like thinking back to the times that I have felt purpose, I just tried to journal every time that I remembered them. I think my niece being born was one of them. I wrote that down and just kind of pondered on that a little bit. There was a time last year when a coworker said that they really enjoyed working with me, and that made me feel really needed and like it wasn't a problem,
Yeah.
And so I think that felt really good and made me feel like people want me around. Even like there was one time where I cleaned the house and my roommate came home and was really appreciative that I cleaned the house. So that was a time just this week that I journaled about, just because it made me feel like if I can impact somebody else's day like that, it felt really good. But also just investing in therapy has been a big step too, in feeling like I'm worth something and that there's purpose behind it.
Wow, Jasmine, I'm so glad to just hear all of that, and it's great to see just even your eyes light up when you talk about these times of finding purpose and having appreciation and with the relationship with your roommate and those around you. Yeah, that's great. And how do you want to kind of continue seeking this goal of purpose? Because I feel like we're not quite there yet. What do you think can drive and motivate you in these next couple of weeks to keep making such good progress?
Yeah, I definitely think that I do best with positive reinforcement, and so I think that any way that I can look for purpose in a way that's like where I'm able to take positive reinforcement from it is helpful. I think that it's also helpful to kind of have like advice and guidelines set in front of me, and so coming to you and getting advice will be really helpful. But I can't think of many next steps. That'll be something that I'll need your help with for sure.
Okay, yeah, that sounds really great. And it sounds like the journaling has really helped you in growing leaps and bounds.
Definitely.
Yeah. And as we kind of pursue, keep on going and everything, there's some other steps to kind of continue to grow. And we talked a little bit about your other goal as well, which was kind of finding your purpose, but also decreasing your anxiety. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this week I haven't had much progress in decreasing my anxiety because I still don't really know how. I think just acknowledging it is all I feel like I can do right now. So that's been a big step. It's just trying to be aware of when I'm feeling anxious because it's just happened all my life that it's hard to even be aware when it's happening.
Right.
So that's been a big step.
And can you give an example of when you were kind of anxious this week and walk me through that?
Yeah, so let me think about an example. Well, my family's coming into town in a couple weeks, and I just found out this week. And so whenever they come into town, typically they want to stay with me, but it's a pretty small space, and I really like being able to get away after being with them. Like, just knowing that I'll have the time at the end of the day to be by myself. Because I never know, like, it's going to be a good time or a bad time, or how I'm going to feel. So I kind of like having an escape route, but knowing that they wanted to come stay with me brought up some anxieties and just kind of the unknown. I didn't really want to ask questions about the specifics of the trip. I was just kind of like, I probably could have asked specifics and it would have been fine, and maybe even helpful, but it seems like in the moment it would be too much information for me to know. So yeah, I haven't spent too much time thinking about it, but that definitely got me a little bit worked up and anxious just because I feel like I can't fully be relaxed around them, and so anytime that I have free time, I don't want to be more stressed and more tense.
Yeah, family can be really stressful for sure, especially, you know, it coming so quickly upon you and not having any time to really prepare or, you know, find ways to kind of cope and know where to go from this. And it sounds like a lot of the family just coming in so quickly has brought up a lot of just anxiety and fear and a lot of just questioning.
Yeah, definitely. It happens pretty regularly when they come into town, or just get-togethers in general. Even if I have all the time in the world to prepare for it, it's just like I just don't always want it. It kind of feels like, why do we have to get together? What's the point? So
yeah, it sounds like it's been kind of a regular thing that's been kind of a roadblock. And just your anxiety and something that kind of sparks it whenever it does happen in your life.
Yeah, kind of family in general does that for me, for sure. I don't know why. It's always been that way.
Yeah. Well, we have kind of a baseline, you know, our kind of goal that we talked about the last session was, you know, how can we efficiently and, you know, take time to be well and, you know, not have to suffer with that anxiety whenever our family comes around. And so I think the first good thing that we took the step is, you know, we addressed it. We know what it is, and we know kind of the signs of it and everything. So I would really love for you just to be able to, you know, in these next steps, just whenever you do start feeling your family coming and you feel that anxiety, just to continue to acknowledge it, because that's a really important step. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think acknowledging it is good. Do you recommend that I still try to journal with that, or is there any other kind of advice that you would give after acknowledging it or along with acknowledging it?
Yeah, absolutely. I know our journaling works really well with our, you know, finding purpose and looking for a job, and I think journaling as well, just finding the source and the root of that anxiety and where it's coming from, and maybe looking back at certain situations and seeing maybe for certain trigger words that may be used by your family or different family dynamics. And how would you say kind of your family dynamic is right now between you guys as a whole?
Just feels really fake. Like, I feel like nobody's really themselves around each other. That's why it feels pointless to all be together. It's like, I want us to be together, but not if we're all being fake.
Right. And I know it's so hard when your family's together, with all those different dynamics and, you know, everyone's different perspectives. But I want you to be able to be in your best place and not be, you know, stressed out or, you know, too anxious. But we want to work through that anxiety so we can get better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So definitely maybe even journaling some things from maybe the past from you as a kid of what different events started you recognizing the anxiety, and maybe just even seeing what people, if there's certain people in your family that, you know, really trigger that anxiety.
Yeah, maybe narrowing it down.
Yeah. And when you come in next week, what would you say would be different ways that you can make sure this like next step in this process, in this journey kind of happens for you?
Yeah, I guess I just don't really know what the next step should be. Like, what do you think I should be working toward for the next week? Because I don't really know. I know where I want to be, but I don't really know like how to get there. You know?
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. Where do you want to be?
Yeah, I would say like sooner rather than later. I would like to be feeling like I have more control over not only things that happen in my life, but my reactions to them. Like, I don't choose to be anxious, but I am, you know? So, ideally, I would be able to enjoy the things in life without being anxious about them. And so, next week, I would like to be able to come in and say that that I felt more present throughout the week.
I really appreciate you using the word present. That's a very good word to just kind of holistically show that towards your goal of feeling less anxious. And we talked about identifying the anxiety, and I think one of the ways we can take a step towards that is the next step after acknowledging the anxiety is taking a deep breath. Because I know a lot of times our mind can start running, you know, and start working. And because usually when you acknowledge the anxiety, what is kind of the next thing that happens after you kind of acknowledge it?
I try to think and fix it, and I feel like it's something that's wrong.
And let's work on taking a deep breath. And do you remember those kind of breathing exercises we mentioned a couple weeks ago? Let's kind of work towards that and just kind of centering ourselves so we'll be able to have, you know, that clear mind of knowing that, you know, anxiety doesn't have a hold on us, but we're able to confidently walk through it, and knowing that our past doesn't have a hold on us, but we can confidently walk through it, and know that you are able and you do have a purpose. Yeah. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
And I think also with just having the confidence will also help you through family dynamic, knowing that you are capable. And I know sometimes we talked about being the youngest, sometimes it feels like you're striving to reach those like unrealistic expectations the rest of your family has put on you. And so I think just knowing that you are capable and you do have purpose can help lower that anxiety and just having that positive self-talk.
Yeah, you're right.
Has there been any times that self-talk that you, maybe if you look back on your past week, that you're like, oh, I do remember, you know, a time where I tried that and it was something that was a positive effect?
Yeah, let me think about that. Well, I remember, I mean, really, it's a small example, but one of my friends asked me to go hang out, and I was just so exhausted the whole day, and really didn't want to, and I was starting to beat myself up over it because I hadn't really done much throughout the day, so I shouldn't have been exhausted, but I didn't feel like socializing. But then then I just was telling myself that it's okay to not feel like going out, and that, you know, a friend will understand, and
Yeah.
they did, and so that was helpful. I just said no and chose to say no and not feel bad about it. So I really kind of talked myself through not feeling bad about saying no.
Okay, wow, that's really good. Thank you for sharing that, Jasmine. I really appreciate that. And so, kind of looking into next week and everything, let's kind of rank then, you know, how our steps in progress towards our goal, how it's been. So we said finding our purpose, that would be more on a scale of like 1 to 10. Where would you say the progress has been with that so far?
I would say so far probably just like a 3 or 4, only because I'm only identifying times that I have felt purpose, but I'm having a hard time knowing where to find it again. So I think identifying where I have felt it is success, but there's so much more that I want to be able to do to achieve it again.
Okay, and thank you for sharing that, and to kind of get it more on the positive and, you know, get it steps closer, let's try to work on those journaling exercises, and continue to strive to make steps in that, because I think I've seen a lot of growth in that area for you. All right, and then we'll also just working on your anxiety, working on taking our deep breaths, because I know you're really capable of doing this and making strides to that as well. All right, well, Jasmine, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you, and I know that you're getting one step closer to your